indeed an honor to be here. See if we can get the first slide up here. So what I'm going to talk about today is the human-centric AI. And interesting in how this was all set up is this is in fact an answer to going distributed, and it's also adaptive. So we'll talk a little bit about that. And it's going to be a little bit more technical than the prior talks. My background, I actually was part of the inaugural class at SIL in 1972 at the University of Texas at Arlington. And at that time, I was exiting, having studied the physics of magnetism, did a PhD in thin film ferromagnetism. And it came about that I ended up doing that in sort of an unusual event, in that it was the only path that God opened to me to stay in the university in a somewhat miraculous way. I can't tell you the details here, but it literally was, go do this. And I could not figure out why for 30 years. You'll see why today, because the physics of magnetism underlies why deep learning works. And what we're seeing is a return to some deep understanding that I believe is written in the fabric of nature, of God's creation, and we're seeing that revealed. After the time with SIL, at that time I have been 3 years into doing AI. 1969, I wrote my first machine learning thing. And I thought, wow, this is really important for linguistics and Bible translation. And there wasn't really a space at that time. It was a little bit early. And so I ended up forming a computer advisory board that worked with SIL and Wycliffe for a while. But I ended up going into the world of AI for the next many years. And I was part of the first AI company to go public back in the 80s, spun out of Stanford University. So I've just had a 54-year journey, and we'll talk a little bit about that today. But what we're going to, there we go. What I want to tap into, and I really like the prior talks because they point to this idea, the monolithic approach, is probably short-lived, and I think it's short-sighted in some ways. I won't go into the details on that. But these are from the Jeffrey Hinton and Joshua Bengio. They've had some doubts about this, and you've seen it in the press. But more importantly, there's a gentleman by the name of Judea Pearl, and if you haven't read the book of Why, I recommend it, because what he says is very simply, we are so much smarter than our data. What we have created these models out of is what I call our data droppings, what we left behind. Do any of us here wish to be characterized by only the writing we've left behind? We say, but wait, there's more. I have an imagination. I have an ability to think ahead. And that's what we are going to look at. Is the fact is God made the human brain. You know how long, do you see this? This is what it takes to do GPT-4. 6 months, 60 million kilowatt hours is estimated. And the brain works on 30-watt light bulb. We probably have not figured out how intelligence works. So anything you hear that says we're ready for AGI is simply not true. So what I'm here to talk about today, and I'm actually involved with, this is an AI architecture that has been around for a bit, not popular yet, comes out of neuroscience and computational biology, but it's a lot more of how the brain works. And I think I indicated to you earlier that I was early. I actually started working on this about 9 years ago, and it is now coming into an area of more broad interest. What I want to call attention to with this slide, you probably all played with stuff like this. You can sit and watch this thing forever. This is just this one mathematical equation. And the role of the computer here is to play it. The intelligence is in the structure of nature itself, of what God has created. The intelligence is in the mathematics. Now, I want to hold your attention to this, and if you don't remember any slide I presented, remember this one thing. The underlying reason that all of AI works the way it does is this simple equation. It's the equation that underlies how magnetism works. It's the equation that underlies the murmuration of starlings, a beautiful thing to observe. And actually, there was a Nobel Prize offered to the gentleman who applied the physics of magnetism to what happens in broader aspects of nature. It's called the Physics of Cooperative Phenomena. Well, guess what? Max Tegmark at MIT and a group of students back in 2017-18 showed that the reason that deep and cheap learning works so well is because it ties into something that God built into the universe, emergent ordering within nature. The design within God's creation is why this works. So I was asked to give a talk at Berkeley recently, and the guy before me had said, look, all you need to know about AI is the summer it was named and when November when we launched ChatGPT. And then there's another guy who says that love doesn't scale, that just give over to technology. This is, by the way, I love the analogy of the Tower of Babel. First of all, it's ridiculous misplaced hope. You really think that building a tower is going to get you to heaven, which is a little bit, if we have to look at ourselves as humans, we have to say, wow, that wasn't really bright. And same thing right now. The fact that you're doing correlation, text to text, and I had a guy at Google, the VP of News at Google, said to me, he said, are we really going to take all the ways we messed up the world previously and make that the basis for how we're going to go forward? Seriously? Okay, so we have to do better. Now, here's the thing that is interesting here is the work I've done over the last 9 years with my team at CrowdSmart is to say that same equation applies to how we come together in our belief systems, how we align in beliefs. Emergent belief learning is adaptive and generative. And what I believe we should be looking forward to is generative collective intelligence, which combines what we do really well as humans with what these intelligent agents can do. And it's based on, I'm not going to have time to go into this today, but there's a whole new area of AI architecture that emerged. It was first published in Nature in 2010 by Carl Friston, in which he recognized that the way the brain operates, it's a belief system. Surprise anybody? And that the way we progress through life is we have beliefs about what we expect to see, and then we have the experience of reality. We look at the combination of what we observe, what we believe, and then we have to make an adjustment. Do we do more research on what we're observing, or do we change our beliefs? Does this sound a little bit like how we are to navigate life? I was going to title this talk Faith-Based Reasoning, but I thought that was a little step too far. But that is the way all living systems work, and I believe this will underpin the future of AI. So one of the things that we've developed with this is a collaborative AI. It assumes that the intelligence is distributed, us, intelligent agents, ChatGPT, large language models. I love the idea of the adaptive Bible app. It fits into this kind of concept. And it does use transformer technology. In fact, I started using transformer technology right as that paper came out, but I was using it for my team as how do we manage our work together? How do we build a collective language model of our collaborative work? And there's a little demo that I think is going to be made available, a link. You can actually try it here, where we could come up with a collaborative knowledge model of what we think about we ought to be looking forward to in next year's conference. So this is really way too complicated, but let me just say this. The new architecture is based around the notion of an agent. We are agents, AI agents, And what we do, the way we survive, is we do science with our surroundings. We basically are doing hypothesis testing, experimentation, and adaptive learning. That is the underpinning, and it's distributed, and it's adaptive, and it runs on low power. Well, I'm pushing. There we go. So what this technology does is it listens and learns from you, and for your participation, and you'll see a little bit. It just needs to know a couple of things. How do you align? You don't get to promote your own beliefs, but how do you align with each other's beliefs? And what I mean by beliefs, in general, this is the notion of what I believe will happen in an outcome. So this can apply technically. We train the system on predicting whether or not a startup would survive and thrive by pulling together cognitively diverse people who were investors and technologists. Guess what? It was extremely accurate, more accurate than most VCs. It was better than 85% accurate in predicting the survivability of startups. We raised a small fund, did investments, and one of the companies, the highest scoring company, was worth $6 million when they were raising their first million. They're now several $100 million, and it's a AI chip that runs on a hearing aid battery. But the idea is you can learn, and this is actually what the model would look like. It would look at what do you believe about the team, the market opportunity, conviction, and then there's an overall probability of survival, 77 in this case. And the way we ran the fund is if it was better than 74, got $100,000. If not, would move, and that's what led to a test of the accuracy. Now, the way the system learns is it's watching how you interact with each other. And then if you do go in and try the experiment, it says this is not a survey. Do not just do it once. Keep coming back and interacting with each other because that's how it learns. It learns from how you learn from each other. And what I believe is very important about going forward is we are all a learning community in various forms. This is a learning community of how to apply it to Bible translation. But what you'll see is it learns the group priorities very quickly. So you can have, and we've run multiple experiments on this, you can have 1,000 people putting in 2,500, 3,000 ideas, and it'll learn to 4 or 5 that are aligned with the group. Now, the interesting thing about this, you can now, and I'm sorry this is hard to see, but this is a profile for an AI agent that can use, and this is using Claude 3. In fact, some of the data, if you participate in the thing I developed here, it was done by some AI agents, and they were not very positive on the future of Bible translation because they were just kind of based out of standard AI agents. So I had one of them, I gave it a prompting to tell if it had become a follower of Jesus Christ and was, gave it a little bit of a conversion, and all of a sudden the scores went up, so it was good. So we just have to have more converted AI agents. They're easier to convert than humans, by the way. You just write the code. Okay. And we did an experiment with 90 students in a collective intelligence class at University of Michigan about how's ChatGPT going to impact the future of their major. And well, of course, we gave it to about 10 AI agents, and then also had about 90 students participate. This is what they generated. What the system does is it learns the probability of impact, which was 74%, and then it learns for the different tracks, it actually learns the various themes of their discussion, like financial statement development or whatever that might come out of it. So it learns their collective mind. And in fact, I don't know if this will play. Oops. I don't know if this is actually a 3D model of the language space of that student collaboration. So it actually builds, from every collaboration, it builds a language model. There it goes, it's moving a little bit, of their collective mind. Each of those dots are their thoughts. And the distance between those thoughts is how different the semantics is between the various ideas. And it also is learning the probability of relevance to the group. How important is somebody's statement to somebody else? It's learning that from the interactions. And then it's also learning what are the general thematic topics that they're talking about. So you understand how this could empower how we work together. Because it can listen and learn and understand where we find common ground. And that common ground leads to action. And by the way, the other thing you can do with this is you can run training clustering algorithms on it. I do a lot of this while flying on an airplane, just watching. It's a lot of fun. Better than watching the movies, actually. There it goes. I'm going to go on to the next slide. Now, I know we're going to run a little short in time here. There we go. So I've set up a little thing here for us here. I don't know if we integrate it in with this Slido, if it's all going to work. We hope it does. But we embrace the vision that by the year 2025, so there's the mission. Do you believe that we can have measurable impact? So you just slide it and then give all your thinking and share your thinking with others. Okay, we'll see if that works. Can I go into my next slide? Could I? There we go. There we go. Now, what this does is it actually builds a more collaborative vision of the group. And I'll send it back out. I have to, unfortunately, right after my talk, get back to the West Coast for a meeting at Stanford. But next slide. Responsiveness is not there. This next slide, if you can push the button back there, I don't care how it happens, as long as there. Well, the question is, do you believe? Respond to this. So what this will actually do is build a collective mind model. It'll build a causal model, a Bayesian belief network, which means what we believe, our tacit knowledge, why this is going to work or not work. This may be my last slide. This is not supposed to be my last slide. I apologize. I guess I can talk through this. Any help in the back there to get past this slide? It's funny. I've been doing this for a long time, and it's still the same with slides. 50 years. And, we can talk about generative AI and all these great models, but getting the presentation to work. So let me, if we can do that. Here we go. So what it does, it learns, so this literally learns what's high importance and high priority. Now, there are just a few people who have participated in this so far. It was AI agents and you guys. So this is what came up so far, but what it also is going to tell you is your influence rank. If you think about this in some way, if you just want to have a simple model of this, think of something like applying Google PageRank to how we collaborate. Because it's learning what the flow is of our conversation. But it will give you that's real time. The reason I say it's not a survey, because the more you interact, the more you work together, you can change the model. So think of it as kind of like a collaborative game where you're trying to work together to decide what would this model look like going forward. And it creates a language model, and what we have so far, it learned 2 themes: AI collaboration for impactful translation. And so it's very, but these things around the outside are individual comments, and if your blob is bigger than, you will not see your name on here because we do it single blind. We want to know about your knowledge, not about how long you've been doing this or that, what your experience is, but just what you know. And then the size of the dot says your score counts more if other people agree with your evidence. what's important about this is we need to return to scientific method of basing our decisions based on evidence. And so that's what the system is able to learn. So I believe the next generation of AI is distributed. It's human and AI agents collaborating. If you can think of all of the language model technology, it's a content-addressable memory. That's what it is. It's a way to ask questions of a memory using semantics. That's all it is. It's not reasoning. It's not super intelligent. It's a content-addressable memory, which can be used by human or AI agents to collaborate and collectively learn. And what I want to say here is you go back to first principles. And I put up Richard Feynman here because he captured the same idea. If you go back to first principles, we only looked at one thing, magnetism. And we now know that all of physics boils down to communication of information across a barrier. It all boils down to information. It all boils down to the Word. In the beginning was the Word is both a spiritual statement for us about the special revelation, but it's also a statement about the general revelation. The universe is based on information, period. It's based on the Word. And this is something that's so important to as we think about building the future of AI. So with that, I always like to say, I get joked about this, but a little bit of, as we collaborate, write it down. Share your thinking with each other. Share your tacit knowledge, because as we share tacit knowledge, our experiences, this is how we get stronger and how we can accomplish the mission we set out to do. So thank you very much.